Being a part of the crowd can be a thrilling experience. If you think of standing with loads of other fans at a football stadium and joining in with the singing and the chanting as you support your team, or maybe just being in a mass of people at a gig, one of your favourite bands, and what a thrilling experience that could be also. You just kind of get pulled along or towed along by the emotions of the moment and the crowd. It can be a great experience. Crowds are powerful things. You think of the sway of the majority, there's a lot of influence behind a big movement of a crowd. And so it can be pretty hard sometimes to swim against the tide of the crowd, of the majority. There may be some instances in life where the majority of our friends are perhaps doing something, getting involved in something, going somewhere, and actually for us, if we're going to follow Jesus, perhaps we need to go in the opposite direction. There might be times when we have to choose whether we follow the crowd or whether we follow Christ, and that can be a really difficult decision. If all of our friends, all of our mates are pulling us in one direction and we kind of know we shouldn't really be going in that direction, it can be hard to choose to go against that. There's a guy in Mark's Gospel, chapter 10. You read about his story from verse 46 onwards, and he's blind. He's sitting on the side of the road on the day when Jesus is going to be passing through that place. And so you can imagine there's a big crowd gathering as Jesus passes through, and there'll be a lot of commotion, a lot of hustle and bustle happening. And he's sitting there on the side of the road, and he's obviously heard what is happening, that Jesus is passing through. And so he begins to shout out after Jesus. See, he's got faith in Jesus, and he wants to meet with Jesus. We know this because he calls him Son of David. He shouts out, "Son of David, have mercy on me." That particular title is loaded with meaning, and it shows us that this blind man, he may not see Jesus physically for the moment, but he sees that Jesus is the Christ, the Messiah. He calls him Son of David. So he begins to shout after him. But the crowd around him, Mark tells us, they begin to rebuke the blind man and basically tell him just to shut up, just keep quiet. And in that moment he has a choice to make, doesn't he? He either follows the direction of the crowd around him, who are telling him just to forget it, just to be quiet, or he chooses Jesus. What does he do? Well, as you read it in Mark's Gospel, you'll know that he doesn't pay attention to the pull of the crowd around him, but he continues to shout, "Son of David, have mercy on me." He chose Christ ahead of the crowd, and it pays off, because in that day he had this incredible encounter with Jesus. You see, he caught Jesus' attention with his shouting, and Jesus stops and meets with him, and the blind man receives his sight. This wonderful miracle as he meets with the Messiah. He chose Christ ahead of the crowd, and it paid off. Sometimes you and I have to face that choice. What do we choose? It can be difficult at times, but if we choose Christ, it pays off.